Picture this, dear reader. The world still cloaked in grief, black veils barely lifted, the echo of a nation's heartbreak still ringing through palace gates. The funeral of Princess Diana had just passed, a moment etched into history with tears, silence, and unanswered questions. But while the public mourned their people's princess, whispers, sharp and persistent, began to swirl through the corridors of power. For behind closed doors, another story was unfolding, one far less spoken and far more controversial. Before we proceed, do indulge me if you have a taste for untold royal drama, whispered scandals, and the kind of intrigue that history books politely avoid. Then go ahead and subscribe, for what follows is not merely a tale, it is a revelation. Now then, let us continue. In the immediate aftermath of Diana's funeral, all eyes, quite understandably, were fixed upon the grieving princes and the royal family's carefully measured public response. Yet, Camilla Parker Bowles, long considered the most polarizing figure in this saga, remained conspicuously absent from the public eye. To many, this absence was interpreted as respect. To others, it was strategy. For years, Camilla had been cast as the villain in a love triangle that captivated and divided the world. And so, in those fragile days following Diana's death, the question lingered. What would she do next? Retreat permanently into the shadows, or step, ever so carefully, into the light? Sources and royal insiders would later suggest that Camilla did not simply disappear in mourning. No, her movements were deliberate, calculated even. While the monarchy worked tirelessly to restore its image amid public backlash, Camilla reportedly remained in close contact with Prince Charles, offering support behind the scenes. Some claimed she became his emotional anchor during one of the most turbulent periods of his life. Others, more critical voices, argued that this was the beginning of a quiet but determined rebranding effort. And oh, how controversial that notion was. You see, the public was not ready, far from it. In fact, polls at the time revealed a deep hostility toward Camilla. She was, in the eyes of many, the woman who had shattered a fairy tale. Any move toward legitimacy, any suggestion that she might one day stand beside Charles openly, was met with fierce resistance. Yet behind palace walls, plans were already beginning to take shape. Camilla reportedly adopted a strategy of patience. No grand appearances, no public statements, just a slow, almost imperceptible reintroduction into Charles's life in a way that would not provoke further outrage. Private gatherings, carefully curated social circles, a presence that was felt, but rarely seen. And then came the subtle shifts. By the late 1990s, just a year after Diana's passing, the tone began to change, ever so slightly. Charles's public image required rehabilitation, and part of that process, controversial as it was, involved redefining Camilla's role. Advisors understood that if she were to have any future within the royal framework, public perception would need to be gently reshaped. So, the appearances began. Small at first, almost incidental. Camilla attending events where her presence could be explained away. Then, gradually, more intentional sightings, moments designed to normalize what had once been scandalous. Each step was met with scrutiny, criticism, and relentless media attention. But Camilla did not retreat. If anything, she leaned into the long game. There were reports, never fully confirmed, yet widely discussed, that she worked closely with Charles's team to craft a new narrative, one that positioned her not as a rival to Diana's memory, but as a steadfast companion to the future king. It was a delicate balancing act, walking the tightrope between public resentment and royal necessity. And here lies the heart of the controversy. Was this transformation genuine? Or was it, as some critics insisted, a carefully orchestrated campaign to secure her place in history? The answer, dear viewer, depends entirely on whom you choose to believe. What cannot be denied, however, is the outcome. Over time, the outrage softened, not vanished, but softened. The once unthinkable became tolerable, then gradually accepted. By the early 2000s, Camilla's presence was no longer a shocking intrusion, but a quiet constant. And yet the shadow of Diana never truly faded. Every step Camilla took was measured against a memory that refused to dim. Every appearance, every gesture, was scrutinized through the lens of what had come before. It was, in many ways, an impossible position, one that required resilience, patience, and perhaps a certain willingness to endure public disapproval. Some would argue that Camilla's actions after the funeral revealed a woman of calculated ambition. Others would say they showed quiet strength in the face of overwhelming hostility. The truth, as always, is layered, complex, and not easily reduced to a single narrative. But let us not pretend this tale has a simple ending. For even now, years later, debates continue. Was Camilla's gradual rise within the royal family an inevitable evolution, or a controversial reinvention that history has simply learned to accept? Ah, dear viewer, that is the question that lingers long after the curtains have fallen and the whispers have faded. And as with all great stories of power, love, and legacy, the answer may never be entirely clear.